The Narcissus Festival is Hawaii's premier Chinese cultural festival. Started back in 1949, it was conceived by the Chinese Chamber of Commerce to revitalize Chinatown. Every year, there is a grand ball to crown the new Narcissus Queen. My favorite part of the banquet was always Chef Steven Zhang's Lobster Haupia Curry. Unfortunately, it's been many years since Chef Zhang retired. And the only way that I'm going to get Lobster Haupia Curry now is if I make it myself. So, we're out to get the ingredients in my attempt to recreate Chef Zhang's masterpiece. The first part of Lobster Haupia Curry is the haupia. It's simple enough to just make the haupia the night before so it's ready for us the next day. You start by making a cornstarch slurry. Depending on the amount of cornstarch you use, you can make the haupia thinner and lighter, or denser and firmer. I like to sink my teeth into it. So to me, the best ratio is 3/4 cup of cornstarch to 1 cup of hot water. You have to use hot water and dissolve all the cornstarch well. You absolutely don't want any clumps here. The haupia should be smooth. Now we use our coconut milk. You've seen me crack open a coconut. It's a lot of work, so I'm just going to use a couple of cans. We'll add a 1/2 cup of sugar to sweeten it up. It's sweet, but not too sweet. You want that nice coconut fragrance to come through. Coconut milk is not the same as coconut water. You get the milk by scraping out the flesh and wringing it out like a towel. Once the sugar is dissolved, we add in our cornstarch slurry. You just have to keep stirring and stirring, and as if by magic, it'll start to thicken up nice and dense. I first made haupia when I was away at college and was homesick, so I decided to throw a little luau and introduce all my friends to Hawaiian food. Then all you have to do is let it cool in an oiled pan and refrigerate it. No luau is complete without it. Now, on to the lobsters. I'm going to start with an inch of ginger. We just peel and slice some nice thin needles. And boil them in 10 cups of water. The ginger kills any sangmei or fishiness of the seafood. You don't want the lobster to get tough though, so we just boil them up for 4 minutes. The title brings such prestige that the Narcissus Queen is usually crowned in a ceremony by the Governor of Hawaii. Definitely an event worthy of Chef Zhang's talents. Once they're cool, grab a big knife and slice up some nice bite-sized morsels. Unlike same as Chinatown, the Narcissus Festival isn't just a beauty pageant. It may seem like it was made so that a bunch of humps-up old men could ogle pretty young girls, but it's really much more than that. The Narcissus Queen acts as a cultural ambassador for the Chinese community in Hawaii. Contestants get over a dozen classes in Chinese culture and arts, ranging from genealogy and symbolism to Narcissus carving and kung fu, Every contestant is usually a young uprising professional from law, business, engineering, education, travel industry, and many other fields, all of whom have had years of training in various performing arts. Running in the pageant allows them to boost their careers by making important connections in the community, as well as reconnect with their roots and serve the Chinese community. Once we've extracted every delectable morsel of lobster, we'll take the shells and return them to the pot to simmer for a couple of hours. I'm gonna use those lobster shells to amp up the seafood flavor of the curry itself. Now for the other ingredients of this stew. I remember there being onions, carrots, and potatoes in Chef Zhang's curry. There may or may not have been celery too, but my memory is a little fuzzy on that, so I'm just gonna leave it out. Besides making appearances at various society functions throughout the year, the Narcissus Queen and Court always take a tour through China, where they are greeted as VIPs and meet with prominent dignitaries, governors, mayors, and other community leaders across China. So the role really is more of an ambassador representing the Chinese community in Hawaii, and not just the beautiful face. My mother was president of the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, so I was lucky enough to travel across China with Chef Zhang's daughter Nadia when she was in the Narcissus Court. Onions, carrots, and potatoes all have different cooking times, so we're gonna put them in one at a time with about 30 minutes in between each. First, the onions. Then the carrots. And then the potatoes. We don't really want the potatoes breaking apart, so they go in last. When everything is cooked, we can fish out those lobster tails. But they do make pretty decoration, so save them for your presentation. I'm not actually privy to Chef Zhang's spice blend, so I'm going to have to fall back on the old Hawaii standard, good old S&B golden curry blocks. Japanese curry and Chinese curry don't exactly have the same fragrance, but golden curry is such a favorite in my family, so I'll just stick with that. Just break up the blocks so they dissolve more evenly and mix them in. I don't know if Chef Zhang used any coconut milk in the curry, but since we already have the coconut flavor in our haupia, I won't worry about it. The golden curry roux will thicken up the curry just right. Now, we're also going to throw in a cup or two of frozen peas. Turn off the stove at this point, and the residual heat will be enough to cook the peas. You don't want them getting mushy. Finally, an ingredient my kids found kinda unusual. I remember Chef Zhang sweetening the curry with some raisins. I also remember the curry station at the old Willow's restaurant having raisins as a topping, so I guess it used to be a thing. I did rather enjoy the sweetness that they brought out. Last, we bring back the lobster. Just stir everything together and let the curry sit so that all those flavors develop and harmonize while we work on the final piece, frying the haupia. Actually, the old Willow's restaurant also had coconut shavings as a topping at their curry station too. Rather than cutting them into simple squares, if you cut diagonals across the parallel lines, you get these pretty diamond shapes. That's how Chef Zhang presented them, so that's how I'm gonna do it. Okay, actually I remember Chef Zhang having a light crispy batter over the haupia, but I thought I'd make the crunch contrast with the soft haupia a bit more by making haupia katsu instead. So, standard katsu ingredients: some flour, a couple of eggs, and some panko. Just roll the haupia in the flour, and then the egg, and then the panko, and fry them up for 2 minutes on each side. If you aren't familiar, the Narcissus Festival is named after the narcissus flower, which is extremely auspicious during Chinese New Year. I always found it so interesting that in Greek mythology, Narcissus was a hunter who was so vain he couldn't stop staring at his own reflection in the water. So the gods cursed him and turned him into a flower. In English, narcissism is a negative quality of being completely full of yourself. Conversely, in Chinese mythology, there was a very poor man who had a good heart. One day, the gods rewarded him, and he stumbled upon these little flowers in the water, with little cups of gold inside, and became quite wealthy. The difference between the way the West and the East perceive the world. And that's it! My version of Chef Steven Zhang's Lobster Haupia Curry. Towards the end of his career, they started making the curry with shrimp instead of lobster, as a cost-cutting measure. You know, inflation and all. It was still good, but it just wasn't the same as those luscious morsels of real lobster. Oh, so good. These carrots and potatoes just soak up all the different flavors in this curry. But to me, the star of this dish is the haupia. The sweet, smooth coconut flavor so balances out the spices in the curry. The crispy fried crust contrasts the soft, creamy haupia so well. It was just an inspired combination, Chef Zhang. Okay, the flavor of my curry is not quite the same as Chef Zhang's, but it's still really nice. The lobster flavor is infused throughout, and it's got such a symphony of different flavors. The Narcissus banquet is still held every year, but it's just not the same without Chef Zhang. I guess Chef Zhang's curry will just have to live on in my memory.